Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Matt and Carly podcast. This is episode number 22.
Deuces.
We're throwing up the deuces. So we're going to do something kind of different. I don't really even know what it is. But
Welcome to our marriage.
So Carly came to me probably like 2 months ago. We were talking about podcast topic ideas. And she said she came across this thing. It's like an inner monologue, or like the lack of an inner monologue, or like how you think.
Do you have an inner monologue, or do you not?
I don't think it exists. But we're going to explore this and talk about inner monologues.
Yes. Because
if you remember from the last podcast, my inner monologue sounds like that very deep voice. So I know I have one. But you got to fill everybody in about what you're talking about.
Okay.
Because I thought you like ate mushrooms or something.
I did not.
It was like telling me a story.
Nope. No mushrooms were ingested. So I read an article. This was shared on February 4th of 2020.
Okay.
Good times back in February.
2020.
For anything. Okay. So this is from my modern met.com.
Okay.
And it was written by Jessica Stewart. And let's see. So this is, people are shocked to discover that not everyone has an inner monologue. Have you ever had a conversation with yourself, one that took place inside your head? If so, you are one of many that have an inner monologue or inner voice that narrates your thoughts throughout the day. But did you know that many people have no such inner dialogue? While that might seem strange to some, it's equally odd for someone who doesn't have an inner monologue to imagine how that manifests itself. The topic of inner speech has caused a stir on Twitter after the user Kyle Plant Emoji put out his own observation on the matter. Fun fact, some people have an internal narrative and some don't, he tweeted. As in, some people's thoughts are like sentences they hear, and some people just have abstract nonverbal thoughts and have to consciously verbalize them, and most people aren't aware of the other type of person. This caused strong reactions online as people on both sides of the coin imagined what life would be like with or without their inner monologue. The phenomenon itself has been debated for years by scientists. Psychologists have been looking into the function of inner speech in the 1930s. It was the Russian psychologist Lev Vygotsky who suggested that external conversation can become internalized. He even proposed that this inner speech was highly abbreviated and included a lot of omissions. The idea of external speech becoming internalized is also supported by evidence that it's the same part of the brain, Broca's area, that deals with both. So,
this sounds nutty to me.
Should you be worried if you have no inner dialogue? Not really. Studies show that some individuals never experience it at all, while others only experience it occasionally. I'm confident that inner speech is a robust phenomenon, and if you use a proper method, there's little doubt about whether or not inner speech is occurring at any given moment. Okay.
So what they're saying is basically some people have the ability to like talk to themselves without actually talking out loud, and some people don't.
You think in like symbols and pictures and like it's
like what? Okay, so you say you don't have like an inner monologue, but like while you're talking, I'm thinking in like words.
I don't have that at all. Zero.
So like right now, can you imagine yourself talking?
No, I would get so distracted. I would get
seriously?
Yeah, I would get so distracted.
Okay, I'm gonna say a sentence to you, and I want you to think of the sentence. We took a trip to the strawberry field. Can you say that in your mind?
Yeah.
Can you hear yourself actually say it?
Kinda. Not really. Like I can think it. No, like see how I'm going, like I'm like forcing myself to do it. It's the weirdest.
So how does your brain, like when I say something like, we're going to cook dinner and it's going to be steak and potatoes.
I picture it. Like I don't think like, ooh, that sounds really good right now. Like I just like, oh, what do you think?
So like, well, I mean, I picture certain things, or like I picture the way like I would be cooking it. So like if I were to say, what's the opposite of dark? Do you think of a picture, or do you like say it? Like in my brain, I hear myself go light.
Okay.
And then I say light.
I didn't. I just like knew. I just like no. Like I would just say it out loud. I don't know. It's so weird. Okay, I'm trying to find.
To me, it's just so weird that people might not be able to do that.
I have
Like, it makes me wonder how your like daily life would go. like, do you just go through life and you're like lunch and you like imagine like a plastic bag with a sandwich in it?
Yeah.
Like, you don't go like, man, this is like a shitty day at work. I gotta like.
Okay, so here's
you don't talk to yourself during the day, like inside your brain.
I just realized something. You just said a shitty day at work. Okay, so I do have moments where I will like actually say things out loud, but it's usually in like high stress moments. So I just realized like when I ski, if I'm skiing and there's like a person that's about to cut across and like I'll be like, no, like don't do it. Like in my head, I'm hearing like, oh no, okay, stop. Like something, you know what I mean? Like that type of thing. I'll hear that or I'll say that and it's like how like loud. Like it's like very like I know it's happening. But if I'm just I think in the weirdest, like I think in like the abstract, when I read that, I was like, oh, it explains so much. I've never had that consistent, like I'm thinking in a sentence right now.
See, like, yeah. So when I think about the way that I think, like my thought process, I can focus on something or I can start to imagine something and I can like put myself in the situation and it almost feels like I am doing it.
I don't have that as strongly, I don't think.
Like sometimes like, so I'll be thinking about what I'm going to do later in the day. And it's like my brain actually goes to like me walking out the front door, like going to where I need to go.
Really?
Like walking in and like imagining where something is and I have to pick it up or like whatever it is. Like I can visualize, like when I go deer hunting, I think about all the little things that I'm going to do, like where my release is going to be in my pocket and like how I'm going to tie my string on my bow and like all these little things.
So it's like visualizing.
Yeah, like I visualize it, but I also can like talk to myself. Like I'm almost talking to myself in my brain.
Okay, that seems so foreign to me because I have to have like a quiet brain to be able to hear other people. Like I couldn't fight that battle. I feel like I would just get really like ADD distracted.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, so if you're telling me a story, I'm like fully invested in what you're like. I can't have other thoughts in my like. I guess I try. I don't know if I do it naturally if I'm trying to do it, but I could never. If you start saying something to me, like I couldn't start thinking like, oh, I wonder what this like. That's weird that he said that. I couldn't like do that. It's like.
Really?
Yeah, it's so maybe that's why you get so like into what you're doing and I'm like, babe, like do you hear me? And you're just like, what?
So so when you're talking.
But it's not like I'm doing nothing. This is the weirdest. This is going to be really hard to explain. It's not like my brain is not functioning. It's just absorbing it in a different way and it's like organizing the things that you're telling me. Does that make sense?
No.
So like okay.
So when you start telling me, like when you were explaining that thing, like in my brain, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I was like, oh, that's total bullshit.
No.
Like, you're like, no, I don't think so.
I mean, like, I probably think those thoughts, but they don't come out in words. Is that weird?
Like right there, I just said, that's crazy in my brain.
Nope.
But your brain does not do that.
No.
That's weird.
It just comes, whatever I verbalize is like the first time I've ever said it out loud.
Oh my gosh.
Is that why I talk so much?
Probably. Yeah, because like I can have a day's,
I wonder if there's I
can have a day's worth of conversation just being quiet. Like
Do you
I
see
can
what
sit in a
just
room.
happened?
Yeah.
I just started thinking, but it came out in words.
That's why you interrupt me so much.
Probably. I wonder though, funny. Okay, how much of that is a male-oriented brain versus a female? Because you've heard like women say like 10 times more words a day than men do or whatever. I wonder how much of the way that people think is like the gender specific.
The saying goes, women talk to like make an emotional connection and men talk to make a point.
Yeah.
But like I talk to myself in my brain all the time.
But see, there's the difference. You guys are talking the same amount, but you're
Maybe
not
it's just because you talk a lot.
verbalizing it.
So like your brain doesn't have a chance to think.
Hey, maybe that's actually probably
You know what I
true.
mean?
Yeah.
So
That's how I get myself into trouble. I just start talking about what I'm thinking about, and I should probably just like filter it out.
okay. I'm trying to understand this because this is so ridiculous to me. It sounds like to me that you just haven't realized that you're talking to yourself and you're just like used to not thinking about it. Like, does that make sense? Like you're thinking right there. Like I'm watching you think.
But I didn't say anything. I started to like, my brain started to go, but no words were being spoken.
What in the world? This has to be like a short circuit in a brain or something.
No. So it's apparently, and what I just read.
Okay, so how would you, if you were thinking about, if you had to make a speech.
That is different.
Like if you had to plan, like right now, if I was like,
different.
Tell me something about yourself, but you can't tell me until it's thought out in your brain.
Okay.
What does your brain do?
So that's different. Like, you know me, like I strongly dislike, I will say I have gotten a lot better at public speaking, but it's not my favorite thing. If I had to give a speech on a plane, I'd probably just die because those are my two least favorite things. But like when I've given speeches before, perfect example was recently like when I did the patrol training or whatever, and I was sitting there and he goes, okay, like we'll go around the room and we'll like, you know, tell us what your name is and let us know like your background.
That probably made no sense to everybody. So Carly just started doing ski patrol.
I guess I haven't.
At a local ski mountain. Yeah. Because she's like a ski expert. And they made her
a skexpert.
A skexpert. Yeah. And they made her like train with a bunch of like seasoned pros.
Yeah. So I had to, I sat in a room full of like paramedics and EMS and people, EMTs who have like a lot of medical training, and which is fine because like I went through a CPR training class and like an outdoor first care whatever class. So like I'm trained, but I had no prior experience. But I was in this room and I had to say, you know, who I was, what my background was, whatever. And thankfully, I was the last person to go, and I had rehearsed what I was going to say because I don't do well like on the fly with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Not at all. Like I could sit there. If I had to go first, I probably it would have been drastically different. It would have sounded totally different. But in my head, I was like thinking, what are the actual words I'm going to use when I say this out loud? So like that, I was like thinking through what I was going to say.
Okay.
And it was actually coming out in sentences in my head. Okay. But it's very unique situations. Like it's something like that. Or if it's like, if I feel like, I don't know, like a weird high stress thing where it's like, oh, no, like don't, no, like shoot, don't do that. Like that's where I hear the actual voice in my head. But other than that, I think it's okay. This is the weirdest thing.
You have to tell me more about how, like, what actually are the thoughts that run through your mind? Because whenever I cannot help myself, whenever I listen to anybody talk, whenever I watch something, I am like commenting on it in my brain.
No, I could never. I couldn't do that.
Like it would be like
That's so weird.
Like a sports commentator. That's like what I'm doing in my brain.
Nope. Not mine. My brain is so different than that. I think in like pictures and like motion, and I don't even, let me see if I can like find somebody who described it better.
So when you think about certain things, what are the things that are the easiest to think about? And then like, what are the things that are the most challenging to think about?
When I think, say that again.
Like if you have to classify different things in the way that you think about them, like what is the easiest way of, like, which way do you think the fastest and easiest? And then what is like the hardest thing to think about?
Okay. This is a weird example, but it might be helpful. So I think when I'm doing a task, when I have things that I have to do and I have to like, take on a task. And this actually might be helpful for you to understand because this is why my brain does the thing. Okay. So 2 examples. The first example is when I played softball, the strategy, I played softball in high school for like 4 years. And then before I played softball for, I don't know, I was in like the little league girl version or whatever for like 5 years. So I played a lot of softball. So when you are in the infield and I played third base mostly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's somebody up to bat. This is more pertinent to high school because like Little League, you're just like standing there and you're throwing your glove up in the air and you don't give a shit.
We were really serious about our baseball.
Were you?
Little League. Yeah.
Nope. It was just like you sit in the outfield and you put your glove on your head and you're spinning around. Yeah, that was like Little League for girls.
Okay.
So high school, playing third base, when somebody came up to bat, you had to think, if I get the ball, what am I going to do before the person even swung the bat? Because
like
if you were
premeditation,
right? Because if you were standing there and you weren't thinking about it and you got the ball, you'd have to take how many extra seconds to look around and be like, okay, where can I throw this?
Right.
So, for example, like if you had somebody, nobody was on base, you know that if you get the ball, you're going to throw it to first base, right? That's like easy peasy. There were some challenging plays where if there was a person on second and say that they led off and they were going to steal, and if the person went to bunt, you had to run up and you had to turn around. Like so basically, it's math. It's basically just like whatever. There's like a certain number. Wow, I just made myself sound real dumb. There's a certain number of scenarios that can occur in any given at bat, right?
There's a best case scenario for each option.
So my brain, when I was playing third base, and I got this down to like a really good science, I knew that if I got the ball, I had already visualized and played out in my head exactly what I was going to do if then. So there were like all these if then statements. And the challenge was if something happened and then something changed and you hadn't already thought about it and you were in the moment, then you really had to think quick on your feet. And that's like, what makes a good infielder is like, if you can think really fast on your feet and you know where exactly to go, you're good.
Yeah.
But so like in my brain, every single play, every single time someone came up to bat, it was like, okay, if I get this ball, I've got a person on second and there's a person on third. They're not being forced. They don't have to run.
Right.
Somebody can run to first. They can stay there if they want to. If it's just like a single hit or whatever, they don't have to run home. So, but the person, if it's on the right side of the field and you throw the ball to first, the person that's supposed to run home can run as soon as you let go of that ball. So it's like you have to literally think every step in every scenario, like what's the best outcome in this situation.
So, okay. Now, imagine this. You're on third base. There's person on first, person on second. Okay? And there's 2 outs. Okay, you're on third base. Batter hits it directly in between you and the shortstop. You actually can get over and get it, but by the time you get it, the runner on second is past you.
You toss it to second, and they tag the base, and the runner from first is out.
What happens if the guy is almost on second already? Does your brain make a comment? Like, does your brain?
I've already visualized what.
But do you
needs
talk
to
to yourself?
No,
though?
I'm visual. I see myself doing it.
Yeah, so like my brain would go, like if somebody hit it, like say there's 2 strikes, I'm on third base, which I actually did play third base a little bit.
Did you? Okay. Hot corner.
So I'm cheating over towards second, right? Because I know this guy's not going to hit it down the line. He hits it. It goes right towards the third base plate. In my brain, I go, fuck. Like I talk to myself. I'm like, oh, fuck. I am having a conversation with myself, just not saying it out loud. See, I'm like, oh, damn, is that in? Is that in? Like I don't just think it. Like I can hear myself saying like, out, go out, go out, go out, go out.
See, I'm picturing the ball going over the line. I'm picturing myself grabbing the ball and turning around. Like I visualize like steps, if that makes sense.
So I'm like, I can hear myself go like, oh my God. Or like,
that's so weird. I could not imagine.
Like,
it would take me a long time.
In the second it happens, like my brain basically comments on what's happening.
Maybe you think faster than I do then. Like maybe, okay, here's a theory, and I don't know if this is even in this thing. What if my brain thinks too slowly, so it has adapted to find a shortcut to think faster? That's why I have to think in like...
So, okay.
You know what I mean?
You got to Google this. You got to Google this because what is the definition of an inner monologue? That's what I want to know.
Okay.
Because it seems so weird to me because like everything I do during the day, like I will comment, like say I'm walking through the living room and I step on Legos. Like, even if I don't say anything, my brain goes, are you kidding me? Like,
that is so
like,
weird.
I'll be like, oh my gosh. Like in my brain, I will be talking to myself even if I don't say it out loud.
Okay, so this says an internal monologue. This is according to Healthline. An internal monologue means more than just pondering over your own thoughts. It consists of inner speech where you can hear your own voice play out phrases and conversations in your mind. This is a completely natural phenomenon. Some people might experience it more than others.
That's so weird
I
to
would
me.
say, okay, I would genuinely, if I had to put a percentage to it, 10%.
Really?
I hear my voice, yes.
Oh man, I must run my mouth,
okay.
my like mental mouth all the time.
That's what I was going to say. But the amount of okay, so let's measure this. The amount of words spoken, whether internal or external, ours might be equal. I verbalize more of my words, but I don't internally talk. You know what I'm saying?
No, even
so
still.
You think I surpass?
I don't think talk that much.
I don't think talk. Joking. It's so weird. So that was my first example. Here's my second example.
Okay.
So if I walk upstairs and there's a huge mess on the floor.
Yeah.
Or there's like stuff everywhere.
So like every day.
And I have to do tasks. Yeah. So like if my brain has to prioritize certain things to do before other things. Okay. This might freak you out, and this will probably explain, not freak you out, but this will explain a lot.
Okay.
So for example, if I walk upstairs and I'm like, okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff on the ground and I see plates, cups, and like kid toys and whatever. And then Ace starts crying. My brain goes, I have to go downstairs. What can I look around and take downstairs? But I don't think that. I just look and I like visualize like, okay, is there anything I can take downstairs? Yes, there's like a plate. There's a cup. I'm going to go grab it. Is there like my drink cup? It's empty. I could take that down as well. So I like try to efficiently prioritize things in my brain where it's like, I know I'm making a trip downstairs. What can I also accomplish by going downstairs and letting the dog out at the same time so I don't have to make another trip upstairs? My brain is like constantly measuring that stupid stuff.
But
that's
you're
just
not like talking to yourself?
No, I'm like thinking through
I mean, yeah, I guess I don't.
Act
I do a lot of that too. I mean, like I'll just look and I'll be like, okay, I got to grab that. Or like not everything is like me talking to myself. Like silently or quietly. But like, okay, so what happens if you get bored listening to somebody talk?
What happens if I get bored?
Yeah. Like what happens if you're in a conversation with somebody and they're talking and talking and talking and you just get bored and all of a sudden you catch yourself and you're not paying attention? Like what is your brain doing? Like, do you talk to yourself? I mean, you've got to be able to like talk to yourself and be like, this is so boring, you know? Like, what do you do?
I don't say that out loud in my head, though. Is that weird?
Yes.
Like, I feel it. Is that weird? Like, I can feel myself feeling that. I'm so in touch with my, like, inner awareness of, like, how I feel. I don't have to, like, tell myself. Is that weird?
This is the weirdest thing.
It's hard to explain. I feel
like you're pulling a prank on me.
I'm not. I swear to God. I swear to God. It is, like, the hardest thing to explain to somebody that doesn't
So, okay, now
I don't know.
Now I want to know who is like a person that has openly come out and said like, I don't have an inner monologue.
I don't know.
We got to Google it. You got to Google it.
Who can we call right now at 1
Well, no, I'm being serious. Like, is there somebody that's notably like?
You mean smart?
What?
Do you mean smart? Do you think I'm dumb?
What are you talking about? What are you saying?
Do you think I'm dumb?
What did I just say? No, I'm saying like, is there somebody notable?
Why?
No. Like, you know what I mean? Like Michael J. Fox, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like certain people are known for certain things. Not to be like offensive, but I'm just saying like, is there somebody that has been like, I think yes, like I don't have an inner monologue and I realized it when I was a young boy or a young girl. And like I did a bunch of research on it and like that's how it's a thing.
So you're trying to see am I in good company with smart people or are you in good company with smart people?
No.
Yes, you are.
I'm just trying to learn more about it.
No, you are.
Because it seems ridiculous to me. It seems like I thought everybody was having conversations internally and like, you know.
Here, I don't know who this is, but it says, what is like.
I say things that other people probably just think to themselves.
Okay, this says, what is it like living without an inner monologue?
Okay.
Go ahead, and that's fine. Keep it to yourselves. It's probably better.
Okay, I don't have an inner monologue.
Is this
no.
On YouTube?
This is CBC Saskatchewan.
Okay. They don't have an inner
Sometimes
monologue.
I say things that
I'm
other
gonna
people
listen.
probably just
This is
think
3
to
minutes.
themselves and just keep in their head, and that's
Not too
that's
bad.
fine. Keep it to yourselves. It's probably better.
Should I show it?
Hi, I'm Olivia Rivera, and I don't have an internal monologue. This is something that's kind of been going around the internet lately. If you've seen it, some people have.
You're gonna have to kill that because they'll flag it for content.
Really?
Yeah.
I, on the reverse hand, feel that my thought process is more like sporadic or random.
It's a
jot
copyright
notes.
thing.
It's not my voice.
So she said random jot notes.
Weird.
It's not my voice. Not necessarily my voice. Can you have like a certain amount of time that you can
I don't know
play
what it is. Yeah, I'm
something?
not sure what it is. So I don't want to have it pop up.
Well, if we cite it in the
No, it
comments,
doesn't matter.
no, it doesn't matter.
No.
Kind of dialogue and stream in their head, and I
How does that
always
feel?
thought it was something that people just manifested and made.
I don't know how else. Is there like a? Hold on. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't know. That's really weird. Yeah, I don't think we can stream stuff.
The people who have no voice inside their head. Let's find out what Dazed Digital says.
Huh?
Inner speech, self-talk, inner monologue. We unpack the psychology of our thoughts. Okay. Do you want to read this? Because my voice is boring when I read.
No.
Let's hear your inner voice read. What is your inner voice
It
sound
sounds just like
You
my
want me
real
to-
voice. No. Okay, what am I reading here? It says, okay, science and tech feature, inner speech, self-talk, internal monologue. We unpack the psychology of our thoughts. And this is from 28th of May, 2019. Text, Patrick Benjamin. It's a fancy name. It says the human brain has more possible neurological connections than there are atoms in the known universe. Between 10 quadrillion.
I just tried.
Vigintillion?
What
What is that?
I don't know, a big number. I just tried to think out loud in my head, and it felt so weird. Like while you were just
Okay,
talking.
I want you to comment quietly to
I
yourself
don't like it. Okay.
while I read this. Okay, I don't even know what that word is. I've never heard it in my life. Vigintillion? Between
so weird.
10 quadrillion vigintillion. That is not real.
Vaginatillion.
This is a fake podcast.
Not.
This is not. It's no. Okay, and 100,000 quadrillion vigintillion. That's
Vaginatillion.
quite a lot. So why does it come as a surprise to hear that most people don't convert this immense computing power into words? If you ask most people, they would probably say that they think in words, or that they have an internal voice, at least some of the time, which they use for planning and day-to-day thinking. When you woke up this morning, you probably thought to yourself, fuck, or here we go again. Right, yeah. But, and here's the actual head fuck, did you actually think it in words, or did you feel it more like a wave of existential dread?
Yeah, that.
Okay, that's weird, because I
Don't.
woke up and you were giving me crap, and I went, are you kidding me? In my
that's
brain.
so
I was like,
weird.
are you kidding me? Okay. There's a population spanning plethora of ways that people experience inner thoughts, emotion, sound, feeling, text, imagery. And we're also pretty hopeless at accurately articulating what our own inner experience is really like. A recent Twitter thread both fascinated and freaked people out in this very subject. Russell T. Hurlburt, a professor of psychology at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, has devoted his entire career to studying the psychological phenomenon of what he calls the pristine inner experience, aka the shit that's going on in your dome. Collating his research from over the years, he found that only 26% of samples experienced innerly speech.
26%?
26%.
Okay.
But he wrote it as per with a space cent. So I don't know. Okay.
Percent.
Yeah. A figure taken from a 2011 blog he posted, which is what sparked the recent internet frenzy. In his tests, he would expose participants to a beeping sound several times a day and ask them to...
yeah. Okay. This was in that original article I read, but we didn't get that far.
Okay. And ask them to recount what was going on in their head just before they heard it. The idea being that they would get better and better at it, and he would end up, after a few weeks, with an accurate portrayal of their mental landscapes. And it says the quote, almost all research about inner speech says there is a lot of it. I think it is all mistaken. Russell T. Hurlburt, psychology professor, University of Nevada. Wow, there's actually a lot of interesting stuff here. Do you want me to keep reading it?
Yeah, just like pick through and just like sight read and see if you can find anything good.
Yeah, so it says Dr. Hurlburt is somewhat of a maverick in his field. His research hasn't been warmly welcomed by the scientific community. Despite the fact that he has authored several books on the subject, I'm trying for the n+1th time to make the point to scientific psychology that inner speech is not as common as we think it is. He tells Dazed of his life's work. Almost all research about inner speech says there's a lot of it. I think it is all mistaken. Lev Vygotsky?
Probably Lev.
A Soviet, Lev? Yeah, whatever. A Soviet psychologist and a pioneer of research into inner thought, coined the term private speech after his studies in the 1920s noted that children learn how to talk to themselves through talking to others.
Interesting.
Okay, all right, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. He was of the opinion that inner speech was an internalized form of speaking out loud. More recent research places importance on what is now known as inner speech, with Dutch neurobiologist Bernard Baars concluding in 2003 that when people reflect upon their own inner experience, they often report a verbal quality, and researchers Dalkos and Albarson findings in 2014 showed that people often talk to themselves using the first person pronoun. But given
meaning like if you were to say something, you'd be like, man, I really don't like that. Or like, man, I'm really okay.
Yeah. But given methodological issues, measuring something in someone else's brain comes with a whole host of problems.
A little tricky.
Research is generally limited. The very nature of asking someone, what is going on in your head, results in a triggering of their verbal apparatus, says Dr. Hurlburt. He thinks current research on the subject, mainly in the form of written questionnaires, is flawed. By posing the question in a textual way, you're inviting the person to look at their experience from a textual standpoint. Therefore, said Dr. Hurlburt, it is likely they will find verbal stuff to report back to you. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
I have a weird question. When you hear a song, when you hear a certain song, does it take you back to the place where like that song was the most relevant to you? Or is it just a song that you know?
It's just a song that I know.
When I hear a song, it will like transport me back to like
you
where
always say that.
Dude,
you're like, oh, this song reminds me of
it. Like,
and I'm just like, this is a good song.
Like my brain will store musical information, so it like, I don't know how to say that, or I don't know how to even explain it, but it's like I'll hear a song and I can go exactly back to like when that song was most relevant to me, and I can feel exactly how I felt like when I heard. Is that weird? What?
Sorry, I was just having a conversation in my brain. You're not gonna like this part.
Oh, is it? Am I a dummy dum dum?
You are not gonna like this. I'm gonna keep reading it. Okay. I'm gonna keep reading it. Okay, this is actually pretty interesting.
Oh no,
you're not gonna like the results of this.
Why?
Because we're gonna get to the point of it.
Am
You're not
dumb?
gonna like it.
Am I dumb?
You're not gonna like it.
Am I dumb?
Okay, it says
I'm not dumb. I'm not dumb.
It says I feel like language limits, says Annabelle, a 29-year-old marketing campaign manager who works in London.
Yeah, language limits.
And who believes she thinks outside of textual realm.
Yeah, me.
If I was getting out of bed in the morning and thinking that I need to get up and get some coffee, I see the picture of the coffee cup.
Yeah, me.
Okay, these coins or these icons floating above her head plague her until the tasks they illustrate are complete.
Yes,
okay.
Me.
When I've made the coffee and drank it, then it stops. It's almost like a sim.
Oh my God, that's actually so accurate. The way that she just described that.
It says there's more complexity to this way of thinking, though.
What, is everyone just a bitch? Is that what it is?
It's not just the next action. That would be really quiet. Her head is awash with symbols, icons, and sensations all at once. I get frustrated when I need to think for specific words or things.
What?
It says, I get frustrated when I need to think for specific words for things. Like the actual words. She pictures like the thing.
Okay.
Not the word of the thing.
I don't have a problem with like finding the word.
If I'm worried about something, I'll see an exclamation mark pop up in my head, and that's all the explanation I need.
Oh, that's weird. I don't have that
Okay.
drastic of a thing.
This seems like a very literal and direct way of visual processing. Things aren't the same for all non-textual thinkers. For Elena, a PhD in linguistics at the University of Texas, her own inner language is a landscape of visual references that she has to strain to convert into the written or spoken word. It's a word of associative imagery and metaphor, and is often overwhelmingly visceral, a blend of art, culture, fantasy, and personal experience. There are no words, no text. My grandmother used to skinny dip with me when I was little. That's a very random
Where did we
thing.
just get where? did we just go from that one?
Elena tells Dazed, and then she would go back in the house when the moon came up. It was weird as my relationship with my grandmother changed in that moment. She became very stern again. She was playful. This is weird. She was playful until the moon came up. She was like a werewolf.
She was a werewolf, yeah.
That image became part of my inner language for a change in fate or change in relationship.
What?
If Elena senses a souring in conversation, or if a social interaction takes a turn for the worst, the scene of her grandmother leaving her to bathe alone in a moonlit lake will flood her consciousness.
Okay, this is beyond that I can accurately describe.
This is not you?
Nope.
This is not
way
you.
too far.
Okay, this is really interesting.
I
don't even know where I'm reading this, but I'm
not though.
hooked. So
I don't know.
it says, if
That's
a person
really weird.
suddenly changes and I see a different side of them and they are abrupt, that is the image, she says. So, I mean, it's kind of like when you're talking about when you hear a song,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I
You
think
can
of it.
go to
I
it.
don't think of that at all.
I definitely do.
I just think about I heard something today when I was driving in the car. They played Spin Doctors. Said if you want to come.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this song sucks. It wasn't like, oh,
See, that
it
reminds
reminded
me
me
of,
of
high school
1992 or whatever it was.
instantly.
Yeah.
So, okay, question for you really quick. When you play guitar, because this is a common thing we have between each other, we know...
When I try to play guitar,
No,
you mean?
we know chords. Like if you said, okay, play a D,
Mm-hmm.
like on the first fret, you know how to play a D, right? Do you see a symbol? I see a triangle in my brain when I go to play a D. Okay.
I think about where my fingers need
Okay,
to go.
but a triangle if you're making if you had to put the dots.
I think about
you make-
what my fingers look like.
See, I see shapes. When I play guitar and I play chords, the chords represent shapes to me. So I can remember where the shapes belong on the neck and I can start to play.
This is so interesting. Okay. So
And
this
you
is,
don't, and you probably, that's probably why when we're like, hey, like, do you want to learn the notes? I'm like, no, I know the shapes. Why would I need to do that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it says, while Elena may have a relatively consistent visual library to draw upon for each emotion, these are merely guiding principles, a backdrop for more nuanced thought. It's not as simple as one picture means X and another picture means Y. The sequencing of these images is where meaning is often found. It's the space in between where the information is. It is really complex and changes all the time. Mostly the images are rich and will mean different things in different contexts. Then I have to mine the image for what I'm thinking about. I often see individual colors for words, says Elena, who believes this way of thinking is pretty common for people like herself who are on the autism spectrum.
I knew it was going to be something. I knew it. I knew you were going to say something like that.
Our sensory system is hyperwired, so we take in more sensory information.
In all fairness, hold on.
Hold on.
Okay.
Let me finish this.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just picking on you. It is too
not nice
much.
to pick on
It is
something
too
like
much to
that.
process in real life, so we shut down and then reflect on it. In a particular case, when it is visual, we hold on to visual memories. There are an unlimited amount of memories we draw from. When we do come up with something, then it will be completely outside of the box.
An unlimited amount of memories? See, I have horrible memory.
It says there are an unlimited amount of memories that we draw from.
I feel like I have a bad memory sometimes. Like I can't remember certain things and I'm like, dang it. And I have to like really think about it.
Wow. So it says that is basically why, because autistic people don't think verbally or linearly.
Am I on the actual spectrum?
I don't know.
Some people are high functioning autistic people.
It says, although our understanding is limited, thinking imagery.
Wait, so this
is
person that's
generally-
writing this is autistic?
I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Although our understanding is limited, thinking in imagery is generally considered a characteristic of autism.
Okay.
However, purely nonverbal inner speech is not limited to people with the condition.
Purely non-verbal inner speech.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not limited to the people with the condition.
Okay, so what you're saying is
it is
most autistic people have.
It is a characteristic
Okay.
of some form of autism, but
Gotcha.
it's not
Limited
purely,
to.
yeah, it's
Okay.
not. That's interesting because, like you said, I talk to myself constantly
Okay,
throughout the day.
I have to tell you this. When you just said that, do you know what my brain pictured?
What?
Okay, so the thought that you just said, you said it is. Okay, I just pictured symbols when you said that. So you just said most autistic people think in nonverbal. Okay, so I just pictured a group of people, right? I just pictured like a line. And then you said, but it's not limited to. And then my brain went, okay, but there's more. So my brain pictured a chunk and then it visualized another chunk. My brain just did that. I didn't think about it in words. It just showed me that. Is that weird?
Thought of the...
I pictured basically what you just described, but on like a line graph.
Right. I'm almost done with this article, so I'm just gonna keep reading it.
Go.
You just comment along as soon as I stop.
Okay.
So you can think in sentence form.
I do get very overstimulated, and I get when my sensory gets over. I'm like, what am I? Okay.
It says, God, it must be so annoying to have words in your head. Says Charlie, a 28-year-old social media manager.
That is weird.
It's not like I have a picture. I just have the intention to do things.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. If you're in a dream, you kind of know where you are, even when there's nothing to suggest you know where you are. You just have an implanted knowledge. Day-to-day thinking is similar to this sensation for Charlie. I visualize stuff or have a feeling about something. It's not like me actively thinking words. Is that like close to like what you're...
Yeah.
Because that's weird.
I like picture... Okay, so like, you know how in kindergarten in like preschool, they'll have you put 5 images in order from like...
I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
So like I know that because like Lila's doing a lot of stuff right now. So like they'll say... It's basically to teach sequence or to teach like order of priority. So like if it's like a picture of a person like in their bed laying down and the window is like dark outside. And then the next picture is like the sun coming up and the person's like sitting up in their bed. And then the next picture is like the person standing on the floor and walking to like brush their teeth. So what they want you to do, if it's like out of order, they want you to like put it in order, right? Mm-hmm. So they want your brain to be like, okay, what is the correct sequence of events here?
Right.
So my brain will see I will see certain things. So like if I wake up in the morning and I'm thinking through like what I have to do, my brain will be like, okay, it'll like picture this and then it'll picture that and I'll be like, which one needs to go first to make the most sense to be like the most efficient.
Right.
So I think, you know how I write things down a lot and I'm very visual and I like to make to-do lists and I like to have like notes and like have things written. I think it's because in my brain, I picture these things. See, like right now you're thinking, aren't you? You're like talking to yourself. It's so weird. Like my brain will like picture the thing and it will I'll want to like write it down. So I want to get like, this is going to sound.
Is this why you make lists?
Yes. This is going to sound so nutty.
This is why you make lists.
I want to get the pictures and the things that are out of my brain so they don't have to be there anymore. So it clears my brain. So I literally will take the things in my brain. I will put them on paper and then I have a physical like sheet where what was in my brain is now on paper and I can just like get out of my brain so I can think. Is that weird?
And that's why when you're like, you don't even have a plan. I'm like, no, I have everything in my mind.
Yeah, and I'm like, what?
Like I have a list of things in my mind that I can keep track of for weeks on end.
Oh my God, I have to write it down or it will get lost. It will just be lost in all the other things that are in my brain. So like that explains so much now because I'm always like,
I have to finish this article.
Yes, please go.
There's like 3 more little paragraphs and I have to, or it's going to drive me crazy.
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, by the way, this is from dazeddigital.com.
Okay.
that's where the dazed thing came from. I didn't
Got it.
know what that was. Okay. So to finish this out, I have to because my OCD will not allow me. So just bear with me. I'm going to finish reading this. So it says, I'm being quite arrogant to think that people who think in words are not connected. She continues, the only time that I have something close to words is when I'm chanting. I'm a Buddhist. When I'm doing this, I tend to get caught up in my own thoughts in words.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking out loud and trying to think of the next step. Okay. So this says beep. Okay. What was in your head just before that beep? Be honest. Chances are it wasn't text-based, even though you're reading, chanting even. So claims Dr. Hurlburt. If you were a typical subject, which almost all subjects are, then you would have to wear a beeper for a day. Every now and then, it will beep randomly. Your task is to pay attention to whatever was going on in your experience and what I call the last undisturbed experience before the beep. Maybe on the third day, you were pretty good at it. Then, when that happens, you will discover that if you're a typical subject, that there isn't much inner speech. So what he's saying is like you think that you're speaking, but
Right.
it's not really speaking.
Probably, yeah.
It says, this is terrifying and intriguing in equal measure. Yes, the brain is a complex organism, and consciousness is difficult to pin down in any singular coherent definition. But the idea that you are somehow not in control of your own thoughts, that they wash over you in forms that you don't truly recognize, and that this is essentially occurring all the time is unsettling. The point that I'm trying to make is that I never ask you in general about the characteristics of your inner experience. I don't think people are in a position to answer that question, says Dr. Hurlburt. That's a hard name to say for me.
Dr. H.
Hurlburt. Yeah, Dr. H. I asked you what was in your inner experience at the moment of the random beep. His method is designed to catch you off guard, to dig beneath any preconceptions you may have about the inner workings of your brain and take good measure of the true essence of being. This is the last paragraph. Here we go. What's interesting about this is the idea that essentially much of your existence as sentient beings happen without ever entering our consciousness. Mm-hmm. It is like it's happening in the background and it is hidden from us. To pry into the inner workings of your day-to-day thinking, you have to stretch your mind almost like a muscle and train it to dig deeper. And maybe on the third day of your brain bleep test, you might have an accurate picture of what constitutes your own pristine inner experience.
Who was the psychologist that really got into like subconsciousness? Was it Freud?
Freud, I think.
Yeah.
So this is really kind of eye-opening to me because like probably from the time I was young until today, like the topic of like ADHD and ADD and like Ritalin, that was pretty.
It was Freud. Okay.
Yeah, like ADHD was one of those things that like in my area of the country, like where I grew up, like our schools, we knew a lot of people that were like on Ritalin.
Uh-huh.
And it makes me wonder how many of those kids were just like bored as shit in school. They're like, this is so boring. And they couldn't sit still. And then people like put them on drugs. Mm-hmm. It makes me wonder if like quote unquote autism is linked to this kind of thinking. It makes me wonder how many kids have been diagnosed as like mildly autistic, but it's just a different form of like
it's
common
like a behavioral
thinking.
Thing.
Yeah, it's like a normal thing that people don't realize is going on, but it's not autism. It's just like a variant of the way that your brain functions.
You bring up a very valid point. I dated somebody that was on Ritalin, and they were very like hyper, but very smart. And I always thought that was so weird.
Right.
And to be honest with you, when the person would take Ritalin, it would like make them a totally different person.
Yep.
And it was never like...
It's not like a good thing.
No,
it was
like really
like
weird.
a muting
it would make
thing.
them not who they were as a person. And it was like, what? Like, and mind you, the person was 15, 14, like
Right.
a normal age teenagers, like, of course they're going to be like energetic and crazy.
Right.
Like, what do you think? Yeah, I wonder. So I wonder too, like big farm and like all the stuff, you know, like how much of that did, okay, somebody worked. Think about it like this. I don't know enough. I will say I probably know very limited about how
I'm
medication is
an authority
developed.
on this.
Right. We're not at all. This is just like two random people having a random conversation. Like,
Right.
no, please do not take our word for like, do your research if you want to know more about this. But this is just like my pure thought. Like, okay, so when a drug is developed, I would imagine how it would start is like, okay, there's like, hey, doctor, whatever, hey, researcher, like person who develops medication.
Yeah.
person.com, like there's enough people that we're noticing at, like, let's pretend we're at like a convention, right? And like there's a bunch of doctors and like medical associates who are there, and they're like, okay, everybody raise your hand if you've noticed any weird trends lately. And then it's like, hey, we've noticed a lot of people are like really super hyper lately.
Right.
Like all of a sudden, like in today's, I don't know, whatever. So say that like the impetus of where these medications start from is like enough people start to speak up about it, enough doctors or enough people like that see trends, like, okay, this is a big thing.
Yeah.
And then I'm imagining like there's enough of somebody has to make a case for it. It has to be. Somebody has to make a case. There has to be funding. There has to be testing. There has to be research that takes years, and there takes, you know, huge medication companies doing trial and error studies and
Right.
studying actual participants, and like, can you study this on animals? Is it ethical? Like there has to be so much that goes into it. And then I'm imagining on the financial side of it, if somebody has to pay for it. So if there's all of this research and development that goes into making this thing, they have to sell it, right? They have to figure out a way to get their money back
Right.
for making these big medications. They have to. So I'm imagining that what happens is big pharmaceutical companies create these medications based on either a need or a desire to make more money, whether one or the other is true. And then they go to doctors' offices, who are the people that are the frontline people
Right.
who are actually going to be prescribing the things. They have to make a case to them and say, listen,
Yeah.
if you have a kid that comes in and he's seemingly normal, but he has maybe a little bit more hyperactive behavior, like just see how this medication does. You know, let him know that he can take this and then go from there. Like, is that what happens? Is that how it happens?
So this is really interesting. This is directly from WebMD.
And then
I
it's like a
didn't
trend?
never realize it's Ritalin.
Oh, I thought it was
RIT.
RIDDL.
I did too. It's RITALIN.
Ritalin. Interesting.
Ritalin. Today, it says today, and this is from WebMD,
Okay.
based on ADHD. It just popped up on Google, so trust it if you want to. Don't if you don't. This is just a podcast we do for fun, so whatever. It says today,
Phenamine.
phenidate.
Methamphetamine.
Not methamphetamine.
Methamphetamine.
Methyl whatever, phenidate,
Okay.
is the stimulant doctors most often prescribe for children with ADHD. I know nothing about this
I don't either.
because I did not realize it was a stimulant. I thought it was like a depressant.
To make you like chill out.
I'm learning something brand new here.
Okay.
So it was first made in 1944 and marketed in 1954 as Ritalin. At first, it was used to treat conditions such as chronic fatigue and depression.
So it makes you like super hyper focused. Yeah.
I don't know. I need to do some more research on it because I don't know anything about it. But all I know is it's amazing that like a drug was developed for chronic fatigue and depression, and they're giving it to like people for
Young
ADHD. Dude, I don't know. I don't know enough about it to make an educated statement about it, but it seems crazy to me. Like I like to look at the way that the human race functions as like the stuff that we're doing right now in 30, 40, 50 years, people are going to look back on it and they're going to go, can you believe that we used to do fill in the blank? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
There's
can
all
you
kinds
believe
of stuff like that.
like some of the crazy medical stuff that you see like from 100 years ago, you know, like there's stuff that people used to do to women back in the day that's like ridiculous. So it's like, I mean, like we know a couple of people that have children that are on the autistic spectrum. I know a guy that has a daughter who has Down syndrome. And it's like, those are two very different things. But it's like, I wonder how many kids in the United States or around the world have these different types of like brain functions that are normal, but doctors are like, oh yeah. And they just, tell the parent, and then they're like, oh, okay, my child has mild autism or whatever it is,
Well, and you have to think, like, my thought always goes to like the internet and the how much information is available, because if you think about it, you can type in any symptom that you have on Google and you get 18 million
worst.
things.
You are the
I'm
worst.
so bad. But if you really think about it, like I've learned a lot about generalized anxiety disorder, and like, do I actually have, like, the funny thing is you could put in 5 symptoms and you can get 1,500 different things that could all be the same thing.
And the stupid thing is I can't
hard.
figure out why my tail light is blinking rapidly.
But it's so,
I tried to find that today, by the way.
interesting that there's so much information, and you have to wonder, like, back in the day, it's like you had to pick up a book, you had to call someone on the phone, or you had to go to the doctor, and then you would figure out what the heck was going on with you. And it's like, now you can self-diagnose as much as you want, and you can figure it out, or you could make a case for yourself if you go to the doctor and be like, listen, I really think I am this. But What's interesting is, do you convince yourself when you go onto the internet and you learn more and more and more about it, and then you go to the doctor, do you have this pre-confirmed bias in your head of like, oh, I have to have that, so the way that you explain to your doctor what your symptoms are according to what you looked up on Google? You know what I mean?
Biased,
it's like, because I do that to myself all the time. Like, I convince myself that I'm like, oh, yep, this has to be it. It has to be. And then
I have this weird thing. Like, I truly believe that if I would have chosen to be a doctor, I probably could have been a doctor. Like, that's just the way my brain thinks.
Okay.
Like, if I wanted to be a circus clown, I would have been the best circus clown, if I would have put my mind to it. So, like, I just have this weird thing nowadays, especially now that we have kids. Like, I'm always, like, I guess you could call me the pessimistic type of person. Like, if a doctor or a dentist or whatever, like, if they tell me something earlier on in my life, I'd be like, yep, that's it. And now I'm like very critical.
You want to find like second opinions.
Yeah. I've been around enough people, and I've been to different stuff where I've seen very conflicting comments made by professionals and like made by people looking at the same set of facts, or quote unquote facts, to know, so it's like, yeah, it's super interesting. Now that I read that, I'm like, it's more of a mental characteristic, but how the hell would you test it? Because like, until you told me this was like a thing, I was like, you didn't get enough sleep.
It's
like,
really hard.
Something is weird.
It's so hard.
Like, are you messing with me?
Yeah, it's really hard to explain. And I probably didn't even like, the funny thing is, in one of those articles, it said the other person is generally not aware that the other thing exists. And until I read that, I was like, I remember asking, I was like, just out of the blue, I was like, do you think in words? And you were like, what? Yeah. And I was
I thought you
do?
were
I thought for sure you were going to be like, no, that's weird. And I was like, wait,
if you think I'm sarcastic with what I say out loud, you should hear what goes on in my brain.
That's terrifying. That is
I filter everything. Almost everything.
Have to tell you, exactly what comes out of my mouth is what's in my brain.
Oh,
I've never thought like, oh, that's so weird. Okay.
I say some
so weird,
terrible things in my brain.
That's weird. I feel like I'm really honest then, because whatever comes out of my mouth is exactly what I'm thinking. Like, there's no, oh, I shouldn't say that.
Oh,
but that's bad though, because then my brain,
sometimes I say things like, if I get like one too many drinks in me, I'll say it out loud. And before I thought about it, I'll be like, oh, I screwed up. I said something I shouldn't have said out loud.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Interestingly
but it doesn't
enough,
happen very often.
I really like, okay, wait, like one step back. So,
and to clarify, I don't drink that much. I used to drink, like in college.
Yeah. That doesn't count. Okay.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough though, like I'm all for finding a natural, not cure, that's the wrong word.
Remedy?
A natural remedy. Yeah, that's a great word. A natural remedy for an ailment or a problem that you have. I like to be as natural as possible. I like to take as little.
Can I say something that's going to blow your mind?
Medication as possible. Hold on, let me finish my thought, or it's going to be in there bouncing around in images.
My brain. I'm having a conversation in my brain right now. I'm like, hold on, she really needs to hear this. She really needs to hear this.
And I'm taking the chunks of images and I'm trying to do. Okay, so. I lost my image of thought. Okay,
natural remedies.
Yeah, so basically, I try my best to, if I can find something to naturally fix the problem, I will do that. So like the most extreme, if I'm overweight, I'm just going to work out. I'm not going to take a pill. I'm not going to like eat like a bunch of weird stuff. I'm just going to like work out and try to eat, like have a calorie deficit, right?
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, you too. But like, that's like, I tried it, whatever. Like for the most part, if I have pain or if I have like a headache, I'm like, okay, I can tough it out. If it's really, really bad, then it's like, yeah, I'll go to like, maybe I'll take a couple ibuprofen or whatever.
Yeah.
But
when you were pregnant and you like refused to take Tylenol or Advil or anything, I was like,
I didn't refuse. Wait, what was when I gave birth or when I was actually pregnant?
Like when you were like through the whole thing, you were like, I was like, just take some Tylenol. And you're like, no.
Like when my pelvic bone was separating?
Yeah, just like weird stuff.
I don't know. My brain I feel better if I don't.
I'm surprised you're not like a pothead. A little bit. You've got all the characteristics of like a pothead. This is a
very different conversation.
I'm just saying, you've got like hey, I'm into natural things.
But I'm also super highly anxious. And when you combine those two things,
that's true.
You might think you're dying.
That's true.
So
can I tell you something that I just like did a short circuit in my brain. Did you just hear that come out?
I did.
People, this is the thing that drives me bonkers.
Okay.
The word natural. Right?
Oh.
People are like, I'm into natural things. I'm like...
Natural, holistic.
Yeah, like I'm into... Do you realize that everything on the planet is technically natural? Even things that are man-made. Like if you want to say it, don't say natural. Say not man-made.
Organic.
Yeah, because technically everything on the planet...
Oh, I don't know. I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah. Like all the chemicals that people are like, oh, it's got chemicals in it. Chemicals are just things that are on the planet. Like we didn't go out to outer space to go get this shit. Yeah. It's like just different
periodic
elements.
Table of elements.
Yeah. It's like different gases and different chemicals. And it's like,
but the combinations of such can cause certain things.
But if it just drives me nuts when I hear people go like, oh, well, it's not natural. I mean, technically everything on the earth is natural. It's just
that's
how
fair.
How it's put together.
That's fair. What is the good word for like...
Is it weird that I think about things like
non-intravenous? Don't intervene with the what my body would do if it were to just be on its own. What is that called? Like
see, I think that's flawed because a lot of people don't pay attention to like, okay, so here's a great thing. Like honey. Mm-hmm. Is honey a natural thing? Technically, it's made by bees. Mm-hmm. So is that technically natural? You know what I mean? Like honey is made from bees puking up stuff.
So if humans didn't exist, would it be here?
Yeah, but it wouldn't be here if bees didn't exist.
Yeah, but
we could kill the bees and then we wouldn't have any honey. Is it still natural?
And then if you if you have beehives that you make in your backyard, then but if the bees would have gone extinct on their own, is it natural anymore?
Right.
That's a fair point. I never thought about it.
Yeah,
okay. So everything is okay. So natural is a bad word.
I think about these things in my brain, and I don't let anybody hear it until now.
That's a good point, though.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sorry, that is totally sidetracked.
No, that's a good point. You'd be a good pothead too.
I can't. It makes me. I cannot.
You get giggly.
I dabbled a couple times.
Maybe once or dab?
I dabbled. Like maybe once or twice.
That was a bad word to use.
And
with marijuana.
I had uncontrollable giggles. I could not go anywhere. One of my best friends tickled me for a half an hour straight, and I almost peed my pants. So I cannot do that. Can't do it.
I get way too hyper. I get paranoid.
I almost took you to the emergency room. The one time you did it.
I've lived for 31 years, and I've tried. We're here for this.
Shit, I mean, it's legal everywhere else.
Yeah, that's...
Whatever.
Actually, it really is.
Whatever.
It's stupid.
One time. I did not inhale.
Maybe like 2 times. And I was like... It was so not. At the end of the day, I was like, "This is not for me. This is not. I'm going to stick to coffee, caffeine. This drug
If I
choice
would have
is
done
not
what you
for
told me to do, I would have taken you to an emergency room.
Okay, but here's the thing. I was also drinking though. Like it was when we were in college.
Not that
I was
much.
drinking alcohol and also probably like took
Where
a
did
little
Where
whatever.
did this podcast just go?
We were in a weird
What
place.
were you thinking in your brain when that was
I
happening?
pictured the doobie den. I'm not kidding. I pictured us all sitting. I'm visualizing us all sitting around.
Why
the
are you
little
giving out
doobie
all this
den.
dirt on us? That's
Our
just
roommates were
no.
in.
Okay,
They were medically induced most of the time. Now medically,
They
and
were normal college students, but we did have an area above our garage
that was
that was
dubbed
not
the doobie
even
den.
yeah, because it was not finished.
Not by our own accord.
It basically had plywood down over the rafters, but we put couches in there.
I made you put your shitty posters in there. Remember?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
That's a whole different.
You know what?
podcast.
You know what? I'm not even going to get into it.
Nope, let's not. Girl,
I had a poster of Brooke
I
Burke.
was so jealous. I was so jealous.
So here's something fun.
I'd be like,
we're gonna
oh,
segue. We're gonna segue on this.
Is that what you like?
We're gonna.
Well, let me
had
just go work out then because
had
I'm not good enough for you.
Because when I was in college, I wasn't smart enough to realize that trying to pick up girls in college, you shouldn't have supermodel posters on your walls. I wasn't very smart. But yes, I had a poster of Brooke Burke. Oh, and I have another thing to talk about really quick.
And you had that one poster of the girls, like the 100 girls that were like, what was that one?
I don't know.
That one was worse.
You know what?
That one was
Spencer's
worse.
Gifts did
Is that
not.
where it was?
Yes, they both came from Spencer's Gifts.
It was like
And
all
it
the
was
it was like 30 college girls that were just standing
looking back
"Tee,"
on
and I
my
was like,
brain.
oh, girl.
When I was partially in college, it's shocking how stupid I was at some points.
You weren't stupid. You were just inexperienced.
Just no. Okay. Well. Okay. Well. No. I want to call this out. Do you know who Maria Menounos is?
Yeah, the like anchor for something.
Do you? Okay. Do you know what Channel 1 News was? No. Okay. So when I was
denied access to TV as a child.
Oh no. This was in school.
Oh.
So
No.
our school, and I'm going to say this was middle school, so it would have been 6th grade.
Okay.
6th grade.
I was,
Channel
like,
1
just being
News.
born.
Channel 1 News was a thing that, this is so far off topic, but whatever, we're going to talk about it. This was a thing where Channel 1 News, like the school gave us funding to put TVs in the classrooms.
Okay.
Somehow, I don't know how exactly it worked. But every morning we would come in and we would watch Channel 1 News for 15 minutes. And I can't even remember what it was. And I am so sorry, but I'm going to say this. Maria Menounos was one of the anchors, and she was in her hot prime.
She's foxy.
She was, she's foxy now.
Agreed.
But when she was however many years, 25 years
Is
younger.
she like our age?
She was like fresh out of college, probably.
Okay.
I don't know how old
So,
she
like,
was.
maybe-
But that's my point. I saw her on a gas station pump today, and she was like, hey, I'm Maria Menounos. And I was like, that girl has been doing this, and she looks almost identical
Her whole
since
life.
I was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
6th grade.
Was she married to
Somebody famous. I don't remember who it
it's
was.
the guy from Saved by the Bell.
Does anybody?
Wait.
Yeah, John Stamos.
No, the younger, oh dear.
No, I
Goodness
don't.
gracious, hold
Oh
on.
no, that was
He was like the
who
host
was
of all
John
the
Stamos? Not Saved by the Bell.
family,
On the Hill in San
House,
Francisco.
the
Full House.
Full House, yeah.
Full House.
The House.
I never watched any of that.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm wrong.
Does anybody remember?
the
If you remember this,
Okay, she's pretty foxy. I'll give you that. She's
okay,
very
hold on.
pretty.
Don't
She's
don't
very
give it
pretty.
out.
Wait,
don't
who's
give it
that
out.
guy? That's
Don't-
not who I
hold
was
on.
thinking of.
Hold on.
I'm not
Hold on.
listening.
Don't give. Hey,
What?
your inner monologue
What?
is coming out in
Kevin
words right now.
Undergaro?
I don't know. If you know who Maria Menounos is, before you Google it, I want you to guess. Leave a guess in the comment section, and guess her age. Just
Right-
guess her age.
Right now?
Right now. Yeah. As of 2021, when you're seeing this, guess her age.
35.
Because
Oh,
no. She can't be 35.
she's 42.
Is she really?
She's 42.
No.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
June
What?
8th of 1978. She's 42.
So she must have been like 18 or younger when she started that. Weird. Okay. Anyway, it blows my mind because she's been doing this for forever. And I keep seeing her and I'm like, she's the same girl that was on Channel 1 News when I was in junior high school.
Is she
It's
your hall?
weird.
Is Maria Menounos your hall pass?
No.
Like your forever hall pass?
No.
Who's your hall pass?
I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
I thought for sure you'd say Maria. I know you've jokingly said Katy Perry.
Katy Perry. Well, yeah, but she kind of.
She looks like
Today.
Anne Hathaway right there.
Yeah.
Anne Hathaway.
So, do you? Yeah. Maria Menounos. Sorry, that was way off topic.
No.
But it was like,
What even is a topic?
how, like, Google Channel 1 News, Maria Menounos, real quick.
Look at that booty, though.
That's what
Look
she
at
looked
that
like.
booty.
But that was like
She's
20
very-
years ago.
Right there?
Or no, it was almost 25 years ago.
That's impressive. Okay, hold on.
She was doing that.
Maria
Menounos.
Menounos.
Channel 1 News. I'm telling you, this is a real thing.
Is this only you or are there other young men that, she was like so cute with her little shirt and her little
show it.
necklace.
That's crazy. So does
so
anybody remember this?
cute.
Channel 1 News from school.
She's very cute. Yeah, I'll give you that. I would have.
I just think it's crazy that like she's still in my brain. She looks
Like
exactly
that?
the same.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah,
Look
it was so
very
weird.
Similar.
So anyway,
Very.
that was way
similar.
off topic, but
Aw.
yeah, that's our fun fact for the day. She's like, I don't know, she's like 70 years old, but she's not. She's like,
I'll give it to
42.
you. She aged very, very well.
Yeah.
She aged very well. Yeah, that I feel like I've never seen that. Like I've never seen her on what you're describing.
I just
with
saw
Channel
her on a
1 News.
gas pump today, and I'm like, how old? She's got to be like 60.
Same.
No, she's not.
Same.
Anyway,
Well, okay, so she's like 10 years older than you. No. She's less than 10 years.
she's less than 10 years.
Yeah, she's like 8.
Yeah,
6.
but I like in my brain, I thought she was like 30 years older than me.
That's funny.
Anyway,
Oh yeah, she was on Dancing with the Stars. Okay. No, I'll give it to you.
all that
She's very pretty. Very, very pretty.
so anyway, that was weird.
Yeah, I got real mad at you. Okay. Wow, we went down a rabbit
We
hole
got to get
there.
off of this podcast.
Okay.
We're going down tangent zones.
We went down a rabbit hole with that
Just
one.
to be very clear about this, neither of us are
Ralph.
potheads. We're not potheads. We can't do it. We will never be able to be potheads. That's just not my drug of choice. If I was going to be a druggie, it would not be that.
God.
Or if I was going to be a recreational drug user, I'd do something more potent or something different.
I
Because I
would
just can't do
be
it.
the person who like gets off on the weirdest like
Did you wrap up your comment about the natural remedy thing? I feel like I swooped
yeah, we
in
kind of like
completely
yeah, we
destroyed that.
We kind of like we went off topic. That's okay. That's okay. No, it was relevant.
If a tangent was a thing, we were in like Texas.
We did it.
We were so far off
Yeah.
on a tangent. We were like almost in a different country right
Yeah.
there. Okay.
So the natural remedy thing, like my thought usually is like, okay, when I go into any doctor and I have an issue and their first thing is to prescribe medication, or it's like what I'm like, but how can I make a lifestyle change? And I've done this. I've put this into practice
Yep.
in many different aspects of my life where I've been like, listen, I want to just know what my body will do naturally. And I want to learn my body's rhythms and go off of that. I've done this in like very personal things. I've done this in birth things. Like I remember when I was pregnant with Lila and the doctor asked me, like, he goes, I think you were there. He goes, what is your plan? What's your birth plan? And I remember him being like, so I loved I'm going to throw his name out because he was awesome. Dr. Taki at Sparrow in Lansing. He was amazing. Like for the first child experience, we got like dream team people.
Yeah.
Like it was, and now looking back, you didn't really know until you didn't have it. You know what I mean? And not to say that our other doctors weren't good, but like knowing who he was and like he had been through us the entire from like, hi, I'm pregnant to like, here's your baby,
Right.
through the whole thing. He was amazing. And the way that he would explain things, he was so calm and so just like, you could ask him any question. He would just take the time. It never felt like you were rushing him, even though he had 100 other patients he was
Right.
like taken care of.
Yep.
So I remember he was like, okay, what's your birth plan? And I said, very unknowingly, like the first time I had ever given birth, I was terrified. I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can handle it. I don't know if I need to go on medication. What if it's too late? And then I like freak out. Like, I don't know. So I remember him being like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I would love to have a natural pregnancy if I can. You know, like, what does that mean for me? What do I have to do on my end to prepare? Right. And he was like, well, on a scale from 1 to 10, what pain level do you want to stop at? And I was like, he asked me that and I was like, I don't know. I was like, I was like, what would a 1 be? Right. Like, he goes, okay. He's like, a 1 would be the, like, just, you have absolutely no pain. And a 10 would be the worst pain you've ever felt in your life. And I was like, he goes, have you ever broken a bone? And I was like, no. And he goes, have you ever like sprained an ankle? And I was like, yeah, but like nothing to the point where I needed like a cast or anything like that.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. And he goes, what comes to your mind? I was like, an 8. And he goes,
a picture of an 8, not the word 8.
Not the word 8, a picture of an 8. I'm picturing the moment that this happened too. Funny. Yeah. So he goes, an 8. He goes, okay. He's like, I'll be honest with you, that's pretty high. He goes, if you're at an 8, you're going to have a baby. And I was like,
let's do this.
I was like, all right. And he goes, if you're at an 8, it'll be too late for an epidural. And I was like, right. Okay. So he goes, we're going to roll with it. He goes, we'll just play it by ear. You let me know. And I was like, okay. So I remember being like in the delivery room and him looking at me and being like, listen, I know we talked about this. You're at an 8 right now. How do you feel? And I was like, I'm okay. I'm good. Like, let's do this.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, we don't need to do an epidural then. You can, if you're at an 8, you can go to 10. And I was like, oh God, this is about to happen. But I like, okay, but my theory in life is like, I think human beings, this is like way deep, but like, I think human beings are so much more capable of doing hard shit than what they think that they are.
Yeah.
And you
sound like David Goggins right now.
Yeah, dude, there's so much information out there that makes you so fearful of like doing things. Right. And like, and honestly, tying back into like your inner thoughts and your subconscious, it's like you can talk yourself into being fearful. And I think you just said this the other day. Maybe it was Alpha Leaders that shared it, but it's like when you are fearful of something and you think about it before it even happens, you are living that thing twice. Yeah. You're literally putting yourself through something shitty 2 times versus if you just were like, did your best to not be fearful of it.
Live in the moment and then experience it when it comes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I am so guilty of that because I will put myself through hell thinking about what if this happened and like, oh my gosh, flying is a great example. Like statistically.
This is weird. Okay. This is weird to me. And I have to say this.
Yeah.
You typically tend to be more anxious than I am. And this is like kind of mind blowing, this whole like inner monologue thing that it doesn't exist. You like, maybe that's why you're so anxious.
I like literally picture it.
Like you're not talking yourself out of it.
Oh, I'm living it.
You're just like, I'm all freaked out because I'm like picturing what it is and I don't talk. Like when I have something that's freaky, it'll be like in my brain, I'll be like, okay, this is gonna suck. Or like, man, I am really not looking forward to this. And be like, okay, but you know, like when I go into something, like I will have a conversation and be like, okay, this is what you need to do. Like, and I'm telling myself like affirmations in my brain. And if you're not doing that, that probably explains a lot of like where anxiety comes from.
It takes a lot to talk me into or out of something. I've gotten better. I've gotten better over the years at it taking less time to do one or the other, to talk myself into something or to talk myself out of something.
Right.
But when I was young, especially, that like I would 100% live, I would picture it happening and it was as if it was actually happening. So for example, flying is a great thing.
Like I can do that too.
But that's the norm for me. It's not like, oh, that's like if I really try hard. It's like that is a normal thing for me. So like,
so like I don't picture myself sitting on a plane.
Oh God, flying is the worst.
I think about like, okay, so I'm going to be getting on a plane in Detroit.
Like I just got anxiety thinking about it.
Yeah, like you think about physically being on the plane. I'm like, okay, so when I like at 7:42, I take off from Detroit and then I've got a layover in Dallas or whatever, and that's for like an hour or whatever. You're like, oh my God,
you know what I'm picturing?
On a plane.
I'm picturing sitting in the seat, and then I'm picturing out of my peripheral vision this this thing, and it freaks me out because I feel like I can't get out of it. It's the worst feeling in the world. And I'm glad we're talking about this because it honestly helps me. Like I can't, maybe that's why. Maybe it's because I have this inner thing of where I picture things and then I literally live through them and it hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah.
And it's so like autistically overwhelming. Like it stimulates my it's senses and I'm like, dude, oh my gosh, it's happening right now. Like,
how many times in our normal lives, like, so this is
I don't mean to pick fun at
this
anybody.
No. This is my number one thing when you're like, hey, let's sit down and talk about this. Or like, let's sit down and take notes about this. And I'm like, I don't need to sit down. I do not need a piece of paper. I'm like, I can process all this stuff like in my brain. I don't even have to be in the same room. Like we don't have to look at each other and I can think through all this stuff.
Do you know when I learned that about you so clearly? It was when we took that Dave Ramsey class and we had to determine which one of us was the free spirit and the nerd.
Yeah.
So the theory behind Dave Ramsey's like financial planning class in couple, it's basically like if you're a couple or just a single person, but like couple,
for everybody.
Yeah. Couples wise, if you are a couple, you can typically determine like who is what he calls the free spirit and who is the nerd. So the nerd often likes to have a piece of paper and they like to write the numbers down for a budget. And like, they like to have all of the information in front of them and have paperwork. And like, that's me 100%.
Yeah.
And then Matt is classified as the free spirit where it's like, but the funny thing is neither one is wrong. Like that's his whole thing is like neither person is doing it incorrectly, but it's just, you have to come from a place of understanding to get where the other person is coming from. So the free spirit might completely know what their bounds are. And like, if you set a budget, what your limitations are or what your, thing is, but you just do it differently. Like you might know and be like, oh, I'm good. I know exactly what I need to do. But it's hard to understand one another unless you really detail it out. So like, when I say, oh, let's sit down and talk about, let's plan this, that comes 100% from my dad. He would always be like, okay, let's sit down and like plan all our things out. And I was like, okay, like, yay, I love this. This makes me feel good. Like, this is a good thing. My brother's very, very similar to you where he will write everything down and he'll take notes and like.
Well, see, like, and I will plan things, but I don't write it down unless it's like too much for my brain to be able to
like
track.
A grocery list or like.
Yeah, like
even
when
that,
I was,
you're pretty good.
My number one thing that I used to hate, and this is, oh boy, if you're seeing this, don't judge me on this. But when I took calculus in high school, it was like AP calculus, and I was so bored through calculus, I like almost failed it. And it wasn't because I was like, oh, this is hard. It was like, no, I'm dead serious. It was like I was paying attention. And I just lost all, because the way that everybody was doing it in the class was like, okay, we're going to take all these steps. And it was like, the class was like an hour and a half long every day. And I'm like,
in college?
In high school, I like I think I almost failed it in high school.
Because you were just like beyond
I was just like, this is so ridiculous. Like I'm sitting through this, like I could learn this so fast.
That is crazy.
And I remember me and this other guy, we like just gave up. We're like, this is ridiculous. Like the people that were learning it and getting good grades, it was like, I cannot sit here for an hour and a half and watch you do all these little tiny steps where like I can do this in my brain.
Okay, that
is like it was so
okay.
It was so hard for me to sit through it.
Spoiler alert, we've taken a math class together. We've taken college algebra together. I will 100% throw myself under the bus and say that math is my least strong subject. I don't know why, like reading, writing, art, all of the things that require your left brain, I'm like, yup. Like, or no, sorry, your right brain. Yeah. Anything that requires your right brain, I'm like, got it. Yeah. Good. Like reading, writing, literature, like art, all that stuff. My left brain, however, my logical reasoning brain is like, it takes a little bit more time, which maybe is why I think in like pictures and shapes and in whatever. Like we took a math class together. I passed because of Matt.
No.
I will say that. And it's not because I'm not saying that you like did the work for me, but the way that the person was just like explaining it versus how you explained it, it was so much easier to understand when I had you to be like, okay, we just gathered the same, like we'd go to class, we'd gather the same information. And I would be like, 75% of it, I'm like, okay, I got it. But like the other 25%, I was like, wait. I'm still on that one last step. Hold on.
Right.
And then he was like 2 steps ahead and I'm like, shit. And my brain would be like, okay, hold on. So I'd ask you, I'd be like, how did you see this? When he went from here to here, like, how did your brain get to that point? And you'd be like, well, it's easy. You just do this. And I was like, why didn't he say that? Like, that makes so much more sense to me. Yeah. So I would lean on you majorly in math because I was like, my brain goes way slower when it has to learn like number I'm so bad at it.
I am like,
I won't say I'm bad at it. I am not as quick as other things.
I never went through like advanced calculus. I think I did Calc 2. I didn't do 3 and 4, which I wish I would have.
Was that required in like engineering?
It would. If I would have gone through mechanical engineering the whole way,
you would have had
to do that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then you have like thermodynamics and stuff. And I wish I would have done that. But yeah, like math is my strong suit. I am not good with English and reading and literature and stuff like that. Like I probably have ADHD. Like I cannot focus long term.
Yeah, like I would much rather sit down with a book and read a book from start to finish. Like it
sounds like the worst thing in the world for me to have to sit down and read pages with no pictures and like just. Ugh.
Oh, I love it.
But I remember.
That's funny.
I remember when we were in that math class. I went, and it was college algebra, and I think I took it just because I had to have a math credit for something, and we were like in the same class or whatever. So I'm like, all right, I'll just take it. And I remember I went through the first exam super fast, and we were sitting like one seat apart. And I remember I like buzzed through it real quick, and I kept looking over on Carly's page to like because I wanted to see if she was doing the things that we were talking about.
Didn't you get called out?
And I looked up, and the guy was looking right at me, and I was like, oh my God. He thinks I'm cheating right now. I'm like, he thinks I'm cheating off of her and I'm checking my answer. And I'm like, I'm going to get kicked out of this class.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
And I was like, oh my God. So I just stood up and like took my exam and I gave it to him and he was like looking at me like,
excuse me, sir, you have no idea.
I'm like, don't start with me, dude. I was like, we've been practicing this math for like weeks.
You were. That's so funny. We really were. Like we would sit in your Spartan house like before we were living together, and we were going through the equations and the drills and like all the stuff. And I remember you being like, okay, like you were literally like a tutor.
I was more excited.
You were a tutor for me.
I was more excited.
You were my math tutor. I'm going to introduce you as that now.
I was just happy because there was a time where you were like struggling a little bit and you got it. And I I was like so pumped up because you were going to ace it. And I'm like, she's going to get all this right. And I was like looking, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm caught for I'm like reverse cheating right now. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God.
Can I introduce you from now on instead of my husband? Like, this is my math tutor, Matt. Because like that's literally what you were.
I'll make you a deal. Oh. I will do all the math and a bunch of the science if you just teach our kids how to read.
Deal.
And do the reading stuff.
Perfect
and the English,
balance.
and like the social studies.
100%.
I don't want to do any of that.
Perfect. Again. I love that stuff.
I don't want to do any of that.
Do you know how excited I got when Lila started to learn about rocks and minerals the other day? I was like, yes, girl, your mom went to a rocks and minerals show and I was in 3rd grade and it was the coolest thing ever. And she was like, really, Mom? And I was like, yeah.
No, I'll do I'll do the math.
Yeah.
And hopefully our kids don't require a lot of note taking and stuff because then you'll have to do it.
I really enjoy that. This has been very eye-opening. I think we have like a new level of understanding after 12 years of being together that maybe we didn't have before. It makes so much sense now.
12 years already?
2008. Yeah.
That's 13, yo.
Oh boy, now. Yeah, well, in September of this year, it'll be 13. So
lucky number 13.
So seriously, like it explains so much, whether it's a gender difference or whether it's just like a personal difference. Yeah. Why when it might be like a left brain, right brain thing. Yeah. Like when I say something and I'm like, hey babe, and you're like, what? And I'm like, how do you not like pay attention to your surroundings all the time? And you're like, I don't know. I'm just like really into what I'm doing. And I'm like, what? And it's my brain is always analyzing like this and that and this and that. Like most likely where my anxiety comes from. Yeah. You're just like, yeah, this has been very eye-opening. So yeah, if I challenge, I always have a weird challenge. I shouldn't say that anymore. Okay, cool. Hey, what's up? So like if you're with another person and like you guys are in a relationship, like find out how another person around you thinks and like have a conversation about it because it's really interesting.
If you're looking at getting a really odd response out of your spouse or your significant other, go ask them if they have an inner monologue.
Yeah. Does your brain think in actual phrases and words
every day,
or do you think in like pictures and symbols and memories and like? How does your brain work? It's so interesting. I'm so glad we did this too because, you know, I've had this on my mind.
I feel like I learned something.
Yeah, same. Interesting.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, people, if you made it through this podcast, I applaud your effort.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
Peep the new logo, folks. This guy created some awesome logos. We kind of came up with an idea to really get this show on the road and make it look legit. We don't look like
total amateurs.
We don't have a red M anymore, or a red C, whatever it was. Yeah, it was an M. So Matt created an awesome logo. It is really cool. He's a wizard in all things Adobe, and it looks awesome. We might get some like shirts printed because it'll make us look even more legit.
We're gonna get some merch going.
Yeah, and some merch for
nobody's
22
gonna buy it.
podcasts.
We're just gonna send it to random people.
Is that weird? Okay, it's almost like that thing. You know how you like get pictures printed of yourself and then you put it on your own wall? It's like that. Like we have a podcast and it's pretty cool that we did this. Like let's just wear a shirt about it, you know? And then people will be like, "What is that?" And we're like, "Don't worry about it.
It's ours."
Or we'd be like, "It's our podcast. You should go check it out." Yeah,
it'll be like right here. It'll be like right here. So, like I said, if you have not yet,
should we hold it?
Yeah, click this button right here, and hit subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let me know if you know Maria Menounos from Channel One News.
Stop.
Let me know your favorite Channel One News memory.
Who's your hall pass? What? Should we do that as our next one? Hall passes. No, that's weird.
No, because there's only one. You only get one. How long can you talk about one person?
A long time.
A long time.
Hi, John.
25 years.
Okay. What?
Okay. Until the next one, everybody. Be safe and
love you.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.